It turns out that despite clear evidence, Senator Ted Cruz believes that he is attractive. He's also under this weird assumption that he would have the ability to sexually please women. And he also thinks that men on the left are incapable of satisfying women. So with that said, let's talk about Cruz's statements at the so-called America Fest held by Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. Here's what he had to say about the political identification of the angriest people and allegedly the individuals who could please the least in bed. Let's watch.
Left is so bad. They're so unhappy. They're so pissed off. And by the way, if you were a liberal woman and you had to sleep with those weenies, you'd be pissed too.
Have you seen yourself in the mirror at all? By the way, I just love how he's like, liberal women are so angry, as he's like screaming at the top of his lungs. And look, I do think that if you are an ideologue, if you are super tribal in your politics and you believe everything coming out from one party or the other, you're gonna be either living in fear or you're gonna be constantly angry. I don't think that this is a liberal or conservative thing. I think this is a both parties thing. I think this is an ideologue thing because both parties sell fear, they scaremonger, and they make you think the world around you is much scarier and a lot worse than it really is. And they basically condition their constituents to fear the other side and avoid engaging in conversation with them. And yeah, if you have that worldview, you're much more likely to be an unhappy person. But with that said, he's smoking if he thinks that he is the arbiter of what would be pleasing to women. Cenk.
Yeah, look, I don't think either side should get into this nonsense about, oh yeah, women want to sleep with us more. That's not a thing that a politician should be talking about.
No.
Yeah, and especially a politician that looks like Ted Cruz. And yeah, if you're gonna make fun of how we are, we're definitely gonna make fun of how you actually are, okay? And look, brother, you didn't even defend your wife when Trump called her ugly. So you're as beta as it gets.
Let's get into that, Cenk. Let's get into that, okay? Because again, he's trying to make it appear as though like conservative men like him are definitely better partners. They know how to pleasure their women. But again, in 2016, when Ted Cruz was running against Donald Trump in the GOP primary, Trump definitely hit below the belt and tweeted the following. So he says, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it shows a split screen of Ted Cruz's wife on the left-hand side and then Melania Trump on the right-hand side. And so he's essentially calling Ted Cruz's wife ugly. I thought it was a horrible tweet. I hate stuff like this. And even after Trump had called his wife ugly, and also, by the way, this is a side note, accused Ted Cruz's father of being involved in JFK's assassination, Cruz tucked tail and did this.
Hi, this is Ted Cruz calling. I was calling to encourage you to come out and vote on election day. Just wanted to encourage you to come out and vote. Thank you, and God bless you.
There he is phone banking for Donald Trump, the very guy who said horrible things about his wife and father. And then Chris Cuomo had this wonderful moment with Ted Cruz during an interview. Let's take a look at that.
Why don't you talk to the president the way you talk to my brother, Ted? You afraid of him? You think he'll smack you down at home?
Oh,
is that
yeah,
what it is?
I'm
like he's shut you up in the
terrified
primary?
of the Cuomos. You guys
Not
are really
Cuomos,
tough.
I'm talking about the president. My brother's not the president. I'm talking about the president, the one who called you a liar, the one who said your wife was ugly. That guy, you know, the guy now who you won't say anything about.
Bad. That's bad. It's real bad. You should not be talking about this kind of stuff on stage, Ted. You shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, Cuomo got after it there. I like it. All right, now let's have fun and compare Ted Cruz to progressive men and see how he fares.
To be fair, I don't know how progressive some of these guys are, but if I had to choose.
But they're all on the left, unquestionably.
Yes, they're all on the left, exactly. So look, I don't care what Leonardo DiCaprio's politics are. And I don't care if he only likes younger women and thinks that I'm an old hag. I'd get after that. If I were single, of course, I love my husband. But come on, are we having a conversation here?
Leo's definitely on the left. He's massively in favor of fighting climate change. Like, he's a classic Hollywood liberal. Okay, who's winning that one, Ted? Okay, and yeah, I mean, you pick Trump, pick any of your, Mitch McConnell. Okay, oh yeah, you guys are all stunners. Yeah, good luck, right wing. I remember when there were rumors that Ricky Martin was gay, and it turns out those rumors were true. But his lawyer had a great line where he said, "Well, if you think he is, why don't you let him stay 5 minutes in a room with your wife and see how it turns out?" Right? So Ted Cruz, I'd flip that now and say, hey, if you think that guys on the left are not going to be that attractive to women, why don't you let them stay in the room with your wife for 5 minutes, see how it turns out? Any one of these guys is not going to work out well for you, especially after you didn't defend her at all.
You also have people like George Clooney, older gentleman.
Now he's
still get it.
They both have salt and pepper beards. One has worked out better than the other.
Don't compare the two. That's so insulting to Clooney. You've got Chris Evans, another person on the left. I love the comparisons. It's fantastic. I wasn't familiar with this gentleman, Shemar Moore, but yes, please. Yes, please. This is my favorite story ever. Okay. And then look, we're showing you a bunch of celebrities. Okay. It's really inappropriate to compare members of Congress to celebrities because celebrities have been Hollywoodized, right? They're beautiful. They've got the veneers. Maybe they've had a little bit of work done. I'm not saying these guys have, but they have a certain look to them. So let's go to the average Joe, including my husband. Yeah, I know you guys hate hearing about my husband and how hot I think he is, and I know that we don't have children, but in regard to the whole pleasing his woman, we definitely try for the kids on a regular basis.
Oh, geez.
Not really.
Look, there's no way that a right winger was going to insult the looks of the left, and Anna wasn't going to show you a picture of her husband. That's never happened in any story we've ever done on the topic. But I believe there's someone else in your household who's also better looking than Ted Cruz. So let's take a look.
Better looking makes the world a lot better. Sweet little boy. He's a sweet little boy. He's my little prince. Oh, so there's a lot of great things happening with men on the left. But again, look, I think that these kinds of conversations are so ridiculous, right? People are people, okay? I'm sure there are lots of super hot guys on the right who know how to put some motion in the ocean, whatever. It's just ridiculous to like be on a stage as a sitting member of the Senate and make comments like this. Just so dumb, and he thinks it's a big gotcha, but all it does is it directs attention to you, how you look, and how horrible you've been as a husband to your wife after a big public figure in the middle of an election called her ugly. To me, there's no honor in what Ted Cruz did in refusing to defend his wife. That was disgusting.
And by the way, it didn't work either. I mean, it worked that he got to stay in the Senate and got to keep his status and his title. And still gets to go on TV, etc. And I guess that's the kind of pathetic man that he is, that he thinks that's good enough. But he thought he was going to, if he kissed Trump's ass enough after Trump insulted his wife and father, that he could position himself to be the next Republican leader after Trump. No, you don't get to be an alpha after you've humiliated yourself and your family, after you debased yourself serving another man. You don't get to talk about serving women and how you're going to be the next leader. That's not how it works. So, but hey, yeah. I encourage him to talk about other people's looks all the time so we can do more stories like this.
Agreed. And final thing I'll say is leaders lead, okay? Leaders lead. Leaders don't follow, leaders don't tuck tail and suck up to people who have wronged them. That's different from forgiveness and moving on. What Ted Cruz did was engage in a quest for his own power and threw his own family members under the bus in the process of doing so. He is the definition of the type of man that would have difficulty pleasing any woman.
Yes. Now, in the bonus episode for the members, we're going to talk about purity balls. which already sounds hilarious, okay? But it means like balls as in dances you go to, still funny. And it's conservative men who take their 13-year-old daughters to the ball and dance with them. And then what else do they do? And get a load of this. There's a twist in the story where I'm going to partially defend it. Interesting. tyt.com/join to become a member, or you can hit the join button on YouTube. And members make this show possible. Every time you hear us covering the news honestly or saying something you agree with, you did that. And we appreciate you for it. TYT is a family, and we do this together.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.